Before we jump into this, I just want to say that I am well aware that I'm a day late to this, but doesn't make it any less exciting. As you all probably already know, Nintendo has finally revealed the Nintendo Switch 2, which, thankfully, above everything else, I'm just happy they called it the Nintendo Switch 2. It's clear, it's concise, it's straight to the point, and it's a name everybody will probably be able to understand. Pretty much half the reason why the Wii U failed was nobody really understood what it was, because it was called the Wii U, and in all of the marketing they never showed the console and pretty much only showed the tablet. So everybody just thought it was a new controller thing for the existing Wii, which, granted, in my opinion, kinda stupid to think that's just a controller considering all of the marketing showed like also games being played. Tangent aside, we have learned some pretty interesting things and a few things that we can infer. One of those being the screen size. The screen size of the Switch 2 has been contested to be anywhere between 7 and 8 inches. I was always in the camp that they might just end up reusing the OLED display from the Switch OLED, which was 7 inches. The original Switch's screen was 6.2, so that was a considerable upgrade. But from what it looks like in the footage, it's somewhere between 7.8 to 8 inches in size, which I think is pretty neat. I like the extra screen size. On top of that, it's pretty much the entire leak that we got of that 3D model and people printed just the housing of the Switch 2. Yeah, that seemed to be pretty much correct. The Switch 2 seen in the trailer for Bar just looks exactly the same as those renders, just, complete. We still don't have any insight quite yet on what that other button does, but we should be getting the rest of the information we need in April when a Nintendo Switch Direct will happen, which I suspect during that Nintendo Switch Direct in April, we'll get probably the release date, which I suspect will be anywhere between somewhere during summer or early fall, maybe October, November. It would be pretty cool if Nintendo did release it during October, because that would be the anniversary of when the Nintendo Switch was first announced back in October of 2016. But July would fit more of a normal timeline we'd expect from the previous Switch from being announced in October and being released in March. Another thing we might have saw was the potential for a new Mario Kart. In the reveal trailer, they showed off a game running on the Nintendo Switch 2, obviously. And for me personally, I couldn't really tell if that was a new Mario Kart or one of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe new tracks, because I simply haven't really played those that often. I discussed in one of my Switch 2 discussion videos that I hope the Switch 2 releases with a game like Mario Kart, because that is just such a big system seller, and that would be a great way to push the Switch 2 early in its life. Mario Kart 8 is simultaneously one of the best-selling games ever on Switch and the Wii U for multiple generations, and having the successor to that game be finally releasing for the launch of the Switch 2 would be an amazing way to start off the generation. I also hope we see a 3D Mario game being released for the Switch 2's launch, because we started the Switch 1 with Legend of Zelda. I would love to see us start the Switch 2 with Mario. Another thing that was confirmed that was already been leaked has been the magnetic controllers. We haven't got a clear picture on how strong the connection is, but it seems to be pretty snapping judging by the trailer. Alongside that, the Joy-Cons are, of course, going to be physically larger to accommodate the larger screen. And from what it looks like, their new Joy-Cons have new analog sticks, but it's kind of hard to tell. It could just be how they chose to render it out for this trailer, but I like to believe that they're new Joy-Cons and new analog sticks, so hopefully they won't have drift, but we really won't know until the full release of this device, which is kind of disappointing, unless they come out and say they're Hall effect, which, granted, just because it's Hall effect doesn't mean it's going to be a great analog stick. I've used my fair share of Hall effect joysticks, and not all of them were amazing. Sure, they won't get drift, but it doesn't change the fact sometimes they just feel terrible to use. They also redesigned the kickstand, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the new kickstand. I really like the kickstand from the Switch OLED, and I hope they would have continued with that kickstand, but this more unique, more just space-efficient design makes a lot of sense, but I hope it's like all metal to warrant such a thin construction, because I can see in the future just so many people saying, oh, I snapped my hinge. Or I snapped my kickstand, what am I gonna do? Because this thing looks like very thin plastic or metal. If it's metal, I'm not too worried about it. But if it's plastic, that is going to snap. Children are little monsters and they will destroy everything. Nintendo hasn't confirmed anything about the power of this device, but we could still safely assume from the leaks and rumors that it's going to be a custom version of the NVIDIA Tegra T239 processor, which is roughly about as powerful as a mobile RTX 2050 in terms of graphical horsepower, which places it somewhere between a PS4 Pro sort of level of performance, just like what Bobby Kotick said during the Activision Microsoft acquisition sort of discussions and courtroom cases. He straight up said, yes, the Switch 2 is going to be about as powerful as an 8th generation system, which isn't the most powerful thing out there. But if we get actual, genuine, high quality performance like that on the go, I'd be happy about that. Reportedly, we also should be expecting something of upscaling technology to go from 720p to 4K. I personally pretty much almost exclusively play in portable mode, and a jump from 720p is nice. I don't really need any higher than 1080p for an 8-inch screen. 1080p is crisp enough. We do not know anything about storage capacity, which is fair to assume at this point. We just know so little. But we do know the original Switch supported all the way up to 2 terabyte micro SD cards, and the rumored capacity for the micro SD express card slots found in the Switch 2 is reportedly up to 128 terabytes, which to me seems just simply impractical. How much is it going to cost to make a 120 terabyte micro SD card? That to me just seems insane, but it's nice to know that it has the support for when those maybe potentially ever exist. But what we know about the rumored capacity of the internal storage is going to be about 256 gigabytes, which I think that's a pretty decent amount. A lot of my friends who own Nintendo Switches usually buy about either a 256 to 512 gigabyte micro SD card. It just depends on how much downloaded content that they buy off of the eShop, which most of them buy, I would say half their games from the eShop and the rest physical. So 256 to 512, I feel like is a decent amount for that. I personally rock a 1 terabyte on my Switch because I personally like buying my games digitally more anyways, keeping it all on one device and accessible whenever I want. Another massive thing that was confirmed with this reveal is backwards compatibility. I've talked about multiple times how important backwards compatibility is going to be for the Switch because it is one of my favorite features of the Wii. Being able to go and play GameCube games was just genuinely amazing. And whenever there's a drought in a system's game releases, like whenever Nintendo takes a couple months or a year to release anything really substantial, it's good to go back and play the classics, just to have that option and really allow people to invest in the Nintendo Switch ecosystem. And hopefully that does also transfer to their digital titles and continue in just improving the eShop ecosystem, allowing you to take all your stuff from your original Switch and put it onto the Switch too, which it's safe to assume that's going to be the case, but we don't have any concrete confirmation yet about that. That means the Nintendo Switch 2 on release is going to have an extensive library of amazing games. And hopefully there's some sort of update or patch to allow the extra performance found in the Switch 2 to help games that don't run especially well on the current Switch. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, to name one, I think right off the top of my head. I am so incredibly excited to see the Nintendo Switch 2. We knew it was only a matter of time when Nintendo would announce this, but I gotta admit, I'm always surprised when they do announce it, because it's just always a surprise. They never do any build up. There's never like a tweet saying, hey, something's coming this week. It's always just dropping it and walking away, like nothing even happened. It's such an incredibly exciting time for the gaming space. I am so excited for what's coming in 2025. I would love to hear what you guys think. Are you going to pre-order the Switch 2? Because I know I'm pre-ordering the Switch 2. And what other things are you expecting out of the Switch 2? What is your predicted launch lineup? I would love to hear what you guys think about this down below. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All the social media garbage down below. And last but not least, have a wonderful day.